Hi, Joe and John.
How you doing, Drew?
Doing well, doing well. And welcome to our attendees coming in so far. We will get going here right at 12:30, so in about 4 minutes.
So John, we can't see your wonderful face yet.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm gonna fix that.
There we go, all right.
I don't know if that was intentional or not.
Hi, Gwen.
Someone else must have done it.
Hey, Gwen.
I'm debating on trying to find some of the best people in the fine arts division. Joe, maybe you can help me out making the Cornell Brady Bunch song with Zoom.
Saying that again? Doing the what?
The Cornell Brady Bunch song with Zoom here. I think we could really have a solid video on our hands.
That's certainly outside of my area of expertise. I don't think that helped.
Again, welcome to people coming in. So as you start coming in to the Q&A session, we'll start in about 3 minutes. But if you start having some questions and you want to get them lined up, so on the bottom of your screen, there should be a Q&A button. You can go ahead and click that and enter in any of your questions. Throughout the Q&A, we will answer a lot of questions live on air, but we may also answer them through text. So feel free to keep that open and see if we answer those questions live on air or if we'll just answer them through a text there as well. But again, if you have some questions, you can definitely start getting them lined up there into that Q&A portion. So this is the second version of this we've done as well. So we did one last night. So this is the first, or this is the one here this afternoon. So welcome to any returners. If you liked it so much, you had to do it twice. Welcome back. This is your first time joining in with our Q&A session. We'll have our leadership Q&A here starting again in 2 minutes at 12:30, and then we'll transition quickly into our faculty student panel Q&A as well. So, and our goal is to be done at about 1:30. We went a little bit long last night, trying to get as many questions answered as possible. All right, some good questions already coming in. I think we'll start here about 1 minute. So just kind of give you the same advice again. There's a Q&A button down at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question for our panelists, please feel free to hit that Q&A button and add your question to our Q&A window. We will answer as many questions as we possibly can. We'll try to answer most of them live in the Q&A, but there also could be that situation where we may have to answer that question just with a typed answer. All right. I usually go off of the bells because I know that some of you are on campus still. So once I hear, or if you hear the bells, let me know. Well, I guess
the bells just rang.
There we go. Perfect. It's just at 12:30. So, all right, we'll get things going. So welcome everybody here to our second live Q&A here as we are off campus practicing the social distancing portion, but we're happy to be here and giving everybody as much of a live experience as possible to answer any of your questions here about Cornell College. My name is Drew Schradel. I'm the Director of Admission here at Cornell, and I have 3 great people here to answer some of your questions as well. So we'll go ahead and I'm looking at the grid view, so I'm going to go counterclockwise. Joe, if you want to start, then Gwen and John, introduce yourself and just a little bit about what you do here at Cornell.
Hi, my name's Joe Deeker. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the college. And to translate that into terms that are understandable, I'm in charge of the academic program of the college. So all of our classes, our faculty, our library, our academic support, and I actually work with student affairs on our Berry Career Institute.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Gwen Shimmick-Tischler and I am the Dean of Students on campus. I work with things outside of the classroom and helping students who might be struggling in a variety of different ways. And so looking forward to helping you be successful here on campus.
And John.
Hi, my name's John Harp. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs. I work with all the programs, services, and facilities outside of the classroom.
Awesome. And so we have some questions already in our Q&A portion. Once again, if you have a question, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to add your questions into our queue. We will try to answer them live on air, or we may type an answer to you so you can see all those answered questions in a second tab there. So we'll start with the first one that came in from Diane. And do students ride bikes on campus? So this is a nice one, especially with turning into springtime.
What a beautiful thought. And we can't wait to see you and other students riding bikes on campus here soon. They do ride bikes. We've got lots of bike racks near academic buildings and residence halls at the library as well. So you can bring your own bike. If you choose not to bring your own bike, we even have what's called a Purple Bike program. So you can just go to the information desk in the Thomas Commons, leave your ID there, check out a bike, and use it on campus, and when you return it, you get your ID back.
Yeah, and if you ride up and down the hill too, it's great cardio. So you have that ability too. Down the hill, it's really exciting. Up the hill, really good cardio. So.
Right. And Mount Vernon is a great community to bike in. And I know we don't want to take too long on this answer, but I do want to point out that our prestigious dean, Joe Deeker, bikes the community very frequently.
1,200 miles last year, so on my bike.
Not that he's counting.
No.
Well, Joe, I'm going to throw this question your way. The student asked if we had any cybersecurity programs, but I'm going to kind of twist that a little bit in talking about maybe our individualized majors and our Bachelor of Specialized Studies as well. Because, I know we have computer science, but in this case, there could be a situation where a student could create a major in more cybersecurity or possibly individualize it a little bit.
Right. Thanks, Drew. It is a great question and a timely question. These programs are popping up all over the place. We do not have a formal academic program in cybersecurity. We do have a very strong computer science program, and that topic may be part of some of those classes. I don't know that to that detail. And as Drew mentioned, we have opportunities for students to design their own majors. Two of them. One is called the Bachelor of Special Studies, which you take a more global approach and build a whole major from the ground up, really with working with advisors and faculty members. That's and another possibility is to do an individualized major within the Bachelor of Arts degree. And that's where you take our Ingenuity core curriculum and then for the major part, design a major. And many times students take existing courses we have across the college and put them together in a new and interesting way to design their own major or to build a Bachelor of Special Studies program. And sometimes it's also combined with independent study where you might be doing research or your own study of a topic that we don't offer at the college. So something you probably don't worry too much about as a first-year student. You don't declare your major really until the middle of your second year, but something you could be talking after you get here, talking with faculty members about how to put together a really interesting major that would meet your aspirations.
Great, thanks, Joe. And so, this is kind of a three-part question, so I'm going to ask it in chunks because I think they're all very, very good questions. But I think each one of you may be able to kind of throw in your own answer. So when does school typically start? I think maybe when does it start on the year? And if you want to go into a little bit deeper, when does it start each day typically?
Sure. We generally start the last week of August. And we have first-year students come I believe it's the Wednesday before that Monday. So we start on usually the last Monday in August. I don't have a calendar in front of me to see that date for the fall. But generally, first-year students come a few days ahead of time through a new student orientation program. And then we move forward with classes block by block. And of course, we have 4 blocks in the fall, take a winter break, and 4 blocks in the spring. Daily class schedules can run anytime between about 9 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. All of our classes end at 3, so the students can be involved in co-curricular activities like athletics or music or theater or other clubs and organizations and so forth. And faculty then schedule the classes typically how they think it's best to run that class. The most common setup for classes is from 9 to 11 in the morning, and then 1 to 3 in the afternoon. So students are in class 4 hours a day. Some classes are a little bit different, that might meet 3 hours. Some lab science classes might meet a little bit more than that. But realize these classes, you're not sitting there listening to lectures for 4 hours. Nobody wants to do that. We're into student engagement in classes. And so faculty member may present some material as part of that, but you're going to be discussing things. You're going to be working on projects. You might be doing lab work. You might be building something in an engineering class. So we have students engaged with each other and in hands-on experiences. So those class days it's a great way to learn and a great way to be engaged in your learning.
And Gwen, there's some additional parts here that I think you could really touch base on is, if a student's having a difficult time academically or mentally, what supports are in place, and then, a little bit more is about the travel abroad program, kind of what that's like.
Sure. And just to clarify a couple of things that Joe was just mentioning, I did pull up the calendar while he was chatting here for a second.
Thanks,
right
Gwen.
now, yeah, you bet. Right now, we have folks scheduled to arrive on campus. If you're not participating in a fall athletic program or an international student, or we have a couple of other early orientation programs, but most first-year students are scheduled to arrive on August 19th, with classes starting on August 24th. As of right now, those dates are all continued to move forward as we are able to. We'll continue to reevaluate that throughout the summer, and if a reason would change for those dates or if there would be a reason for those dates to change, we'd certainly be communicating that both through your admissions counselor and through other campus communication. But to talk a little bit about the resources that are available on campus, we have a large group of folks who are part of our Cornell Wellbeing Network, and those include folks who are here both for mental and physical well-being, as well as academic support and religious and spiritual well-being. And so just to talk a little bit about those folks, in terms of physical support on campus for health issues, study off campus, study abroad, travel health type things. We do have a health clinic on campus that is supported by an RN. She works in conjunction with our 2 clinics, medical clinics here in town, and works with our doctors pretty regularly over there if we need to refer out, although we're able to work about 90% of the concerns that students bring in are handled in-house, and we're able to do that at no cost to students or minimal cost to students. We have 2 counselors on campus in our counseling center, and folks there are able to work with students on a short-term basis. If there's a larger ongoing need or something that goes beyond the scope of their talents, they are able to refer to folks in the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City community. And for either medical appointments or for mental health appointments, if there are things that students are needing to see specialists or needing transportation and that becomes a barrier, we do have a ride program available for students in the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City corridor area to help provide that transportation. Other folks in the Wellbeing Network who are here to help with your support are our health promotions office, and they're working with helping with anxiety management and time management, stress reduction, doing a lot of things to make sure that you're connected to resources and having the tools that you need in order to be successful and thrive here as a student. Our chaplain does yoga and meditation. If you're part of our social media, communities. You'll see in the upcoming weeks, as we're all adjusting to virtual interactions with each other, you'll see some opportunities and some videos that she's putting together related to mindfulness and meditation, as well as I think a couple of yoga practices that she's leading. So I would encourage you to take advantage of that. And then the other component of that is folks from our academic advising and support office who are part of the Center for Teaching and Learning. So over in that area, we have a few different academic studios. We have a writing studio where they can do anything from helping with a paper that you have that you get the assignment and you have no idea where to start, to doing final edits for a paper. We have both professional and student staff who work in that area. We have an academic technology studio. So if you have a presentation or need to make a video, a podcast, something like that, and you don't know where to start or are wanting to help refining some of that, they can assist. And then we have our quantitative reasoning studio, which is our fancy word for math or math-related things. And so there we also have both student and professional staff members who can help students who are struggling in any of those areas. Our academic support area works with students who might have some learning disabilities or accommodations that they're needing, as well as helping to set up individual tutors and can do some general academic advising. If you aren't able to get a hold of your advisor, which is a rare situation, but or want a different perspective on things, the academic support office is great with assisting with any of those. So that's a little bit about our academic and health-related supports that we have on campus. And then there was a question within that about our travel abroad and study abroad opportunities. And so every year we have between 10 and 14 off-campus study opportunities that range anything from going up into the boundary waters in northern Minnesota to going to either Chicago or New York or London and seeing a series of plays that happen there within a 20-day span, to students who are studying truly in off-campus and international locations. And that might be for 1 to 2 weeks of a block, or it might be for the entirety of the block. And so we have a lot of students who take advantage of those. We do have some scholarships available for students to be able to participate in those and other experiential learning opportunities. And so a lot of students are able to take advantage of that at some point during their Cornell career. And those trips are all led by Cornell faculty. So there's always a couple of faculty or staff members who are on a trip to help guide you through that process. And if you're interested in doing a longer semester-long or year-long study abroad opportunity, our Office of Off-Campus Studies also can help facilitate that and get you connected to different programs that we're partnered with.
And one other question here for study abroad programs, one specific from Connor. He's wondering if there are any classes to go to Germany. And I couldn't remember if David Yamadishi's class goes to Germany or not.
Eastern Europe, I don't think includes Germany on that trip. Tyler Carrington, our German professor, took a trip last year to Germany. I'll just say this, the entire list of our off-campus courses for the coming year are online. If you go to our off-campus study website, you can see those and see the opportunities, and then next year we'll be planning for the following year.
Gotcha. So this question's come up a couple of times, and I think it's one that a lot of families are curious about. With, the coronavirus, the COVID-19 situation, and a lot of different things that people are hearing is, if it continues, or what is our plan if it does continue, with move-in day being on August 19th. And so John, this might be one for you, especially just for move-in and residential life. And then Joe, if you want to chime in just with like faculty and kind of what we're doing now.
Thank you. Connor, I saw your question there. Sounds like you're about ready to get out of the house. And I know we're ready to see our students back here and our new students come in the fall. Right now, we're planning to operate on schedule. Of course, that could change by the day, by the hour even, as things have been going lately. So certainly we hope that globally we have moved beyond the situation we're in now and may be in for the unforeseeable future, and that we can keep to that schedule and have you moving in on campus on August 19th. We certainly look forward to that opportunity. We will continue to plan and abide by all those precautions that everybody in the world needs to abide by right now. And as we make decisions and we make them as early as possible, we will certainly communicate that out to our current students and our incoming new students as well. So we hope to have you here in mid-August. We'll wait and see.
I'll just add a little bit to that. Right now, we've started, we're teaching all of our courses online. For the next 2 blocks, we're going to make a decision about our summer programs. We have some student faculty research institute here in the summer. We have a high school opportunities in the summer, both camps and a 1-course summer institute. We're going to make that decision about mid-April as we see what develops. And certainly, I would think by May, we're going to have to be thinking about what happens in the fall. But it's just so hard to predict how this is going to turn out, and none of our crystal balls are very perfect.
And I mean, I'll follow up with that and just reassure that we take these conversations very seriously. There's a whole task force here at Cornell, and we meet daily to talk about what we've seen in the news, what we need to plan for, looking out as far ahead as we possibly can. And at the end of the day, our number one thing is the safety of our community, both faculty, staff, and students, to making sure that we can still give students the experience through our education, through our faculty, but also keep them safe. And so, our decisions are never made lightly. We definitely go through every situation. We want students here, but at the same time, we want everybody safe. So we will continue to monitor that, and we will make sure to address any of those questions as we get closer to that, as we hear things. So another question here from Helen: do students mostly stay on campus, or do they go and explore Mount Vernon? I'll add to that just a little bit. Do they also go off campus to explore Iowa City or Cedar Rapids a lot? And John, maybe that's your question.
Sure, absolutely. And I answered one of the other questions about cars. Can first-year students bring cars? And yes, they can. And about 50 to 60% of our students bring cars. And that's the typical way that students are going out and exploring. So if they don't have a car, they're going to make a friend who has a car, and they're going to take off into the Mount Vernon community or into Iowa City or Cedar Rapids. Iowa City, 30 minutes away, a lot to offer down there in terms of social engagement and even learning opportunities. And the same way in Cedar Rapids, which is about 15 to 20 minutes away, a lot of services, goods and services, restaurants, movie theaters, that sort of thing there. And then, of course, getting out into the Mount Vernon community, there are some really cool local shops. There's a 1-screen local movie theater here. There are a number of outdoor parks and a brand new fitness facility in Mount Vernon, health and fitness well-being facility in Mount Vernon that students can enjoy at no cost through the college. So there are a lot of things to do off campus. We even have a program called Get Out of Town, where we organize and use shuttles to take students to things like Coral Ridge Mall, which is about 30 minutes away, is probably one of the largest malls in Iowa, or other kind of outings to Halloween haunted houses, to bowling, a variety of other types of activities that they can do together.
And John, you mentioned the parking, and someone just asked real quick too, the cost of the parking pass. I know this is one that you always like to answer because it's so low.
Yeah, I think the cost, hold on to your hats here, is $35 a year for parking at Cornell for students.
So very cheap.
Very inexpensive.
Yeah. So Gwen, I'm excited about this question because for those who are joining us, they unfortunately don't get to partake in you and my session about first year orientation and such, but we have a couple of questions asking about what does orientation look like for first year students, and are there any field trip type bonding experiences or activities that happen? So I'll send that your way.
Sure. So orientation, as we shared, starts with move-in day. So we do a fall-only orientation. We know that folks are really busy during the summer. People are trying to earn money and work and do other things. And so really when we start with our physical orientation, it starts with move-in day. That being said, once you deposit, you'll be provided access to a online checklist that will give you a bunch of the forms and the paperwork, the stuff that we need to know from you prior to your starting classes here on campus. So I'm sure your admissions counselor and folks will be in touch with you about those next steps once they're available. But once we start orientation, it is starting that Wednesday. So we'll start that day by having you move in. We'll make sure that all of your paperwork stuff is in order that we need for classes to start. And late in the afternoon, we'll spend some time with your families who might be here helping you to really kind of kick off the year with an address from our president and our chaplain. As we begin the academic year, we'll give you a quick second to say goodbye to anyone that came with you, and then we'll send some folks on their way as we start with making sure that you're getting to know the folks on your floor and the folks who will be part of an orientation group with you. So we'll start getting you connected to other people on campus. We know that people find their connection points in a variety of different ways, and so we want to start helping you to meet people who might be your future classmates, might be your future best friends, fraternity or sorority members, teammates, in a production with you or part of the band or orchestra with you. So we want to do a lot of things that help you to get connected in those ways. Once that's completed, we will start doing some more activities that evening. Throughout orientation, you will meet with your faculty member, your faculty advisor, and you'll start to pick out classes. So we haven't necessarily talked about registration for classes for the rest of the year, but as part of your new student checklist, you'll fill out some information about advising and who you might want to connect with. And everybody's in the same first year seminar course. So you'll have your first year seminar meeting during new student orientation. But you'll also register for classes for blocks 2, 3, and 4. So that takes you through the end of the fall semester. And then in the spring, or later in the fall, you'll register for the spring semester for blocks 5 through 8, so January through May. And then after spring break, you'll register for your entire sophomore year. So that's a little bit how registration works. But during orientation, you'll finish your blocks 2, 3, and 4, and your advisor will help you to pick out those classes. We'll also spend some time doing some educational programming, some things about alcohol and some things about safe sex practices and how to support people who might be having a hard time. We'll make sure that you start to learn where the resources are in the Center for Teaching and Learning, and we'll make sure that you get connected to a lot of those downtown Mount Vernon businesses. So we do one event that's called Viva Mount Vernon, where we take you downtown. Everybody wants to meet you and wants to get to know you a little bit better. And so, and I always share, I grew up in a small town. I know that in order to get my cake pan, I need to go to the hardware store. That's apparently not intuitive for everybody. This is where if we were all in the same room, you would laugh a little bit, but that might not be happening. And then we make sure that you know where the movie theater is and where different places that you might need to connect with that are within walking distance of campus are. So we do a variety of those things. We help to make sure that you know where to go on the first day of class and really spend some time getting to know each other while also making sure that you have access to the tools that we'll continue to remind you about as the year goes on.
Gwen, I want to get in one piece of advice that you gave during our session is plan out if you're going to hug or not after convocation, because you have quite the story.
Yeah, so I always say that students, this is the time that you want to hug your parents goodbye. Parents, this is probably the time where you want to hug your students goodbye. If only for the reason that at some point your student may decide that they want to work on a college campus. And then, like myself, who has the pleasure of calling my dad up every year on move-in day to say, Dad, this is the day that you didn't hug me goodbye when you dropped me off at college. We got to a place where the path split and he walked one direction and I walked another direction, and no goodbye was had. So I encourage folks now to do that, because you don't want to get that call annually from your students.
Although a great story.
Yes.
So a great question here that came up is, do students spend a lot of time in the library, and do students seem to be motivated to learn and go to class? So Joe, I know what the the answer you want is, and I think it's the answer that is true as well.
Yes, I will tell you the truth on this one. Our library is sort of the hub of learning on campus, and especially from about 2 o'clock in the afternoon till well late into the evening, full of students studying either individually, collectively. And of course, libraries nowadays, they still have books, but not as many as they used to. And the abundance of electronic resources that you can access either in the library or from wherever on campus by your computer. But our library is a hopping place because it is the place to study. It's the place to get help through the Center for Teaching and Learning. And I want to make clear that help is not just for remedial kinds of situations where students trying to catch up. It's for everybody. Our best students go to the Writing Center or the Quantitative Reasoning Center. That's how they ensure they're doing a great job. And students do go to class, because one course at a time, missing a day of class is almost like missing a whole week if you were in a semester school. So our students at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's about 10 minutes till 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a big line of students heading across campus to class. About 11 o'clock, they're all heading back to get some lunch. About 10 minutes to 1 or so, they're all heading back toward class. And I would say that if you don't go to class, you're going to be lonely because all of your friends and everybody else is going to be in class. And to be really a realistic note is, we have a few students that don't do well here. And in most cases, it's because they didn't go to class and they didn't do any work. It's not that they're don't have the ability. It's the students that don't succeed at Cornell are the ones that don't take part, and especially going to class. And so if you go to class, you put in some effort, you're going to do well at Cornell College. And that's I think our culture and most of our students really buy into that.
And so as we near kind of our conclusion for this Q&A, I want to ask at least one more question from Diane. Are there certain core classes that are required of all students?
Well, this is a great topic, because our students this fall will be the first class to enter into what we call Ingenuity, which is Cornell's new core curriculum, which launches in the fall. I don't have time to give you all the details. There's a great website. If you go to our website and put in Ingenuity, you'll find it. We start with a common first-year seminar for all of our students. We have another topical first-year seminar that has lots of hands-on aspects in it for our sophomore students. We want to make sure that you gain those essential abilities in writing, in interpersonal, intercultural communication and literacy, and in mathematical and data skills. We're requiring experiential learning for all students, things like internships or study abroad or work kinds of situations, or doing creative projects on campus. It's an exciting new curriculum. It's really cutting edge, designed to get students ready for the 21st century. And because we're running out of time, I won't go on and on. We've been working on this for about 3 years. Go to our website, check it out. It's really interesting, and it's a distinctive Cornell. It's a great way to get an education.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many new opportunities that are going to come with it, which is great. One question that got answered off air that I just want to add one little thing in there too was a question about AP courses and transfer credits. So we do accept AP courses, but transfer credits, something new recently just happened as well. So Cornell College, you may have been in communication with your counselor about our transfer credits. And we used to have a cap on it, but our faculty have removed that cap for our transfers, or our students who bring in transfer credits. So if you have any questions about that, definitely contact your counselor. We can talk more about that and get you a transcript review done by our transfer coordinator, who can look at each of those courses to make sure that they align well with the course that Cornell College offers. And so with that, I think we're going to transition to our faculty student panel. So once again, with unfortunately no applause for Joe, John, and Gwen, but thank you so much for joining us here for the second ever live Q&A session here for Destination Cornell. But we really do appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions that didn't get answered, or more personal that you'd like to ask any of them, please don't hesitate. You can reach out to our admission office at admission with no S on the end at cornellcollege.edu. Again, that's admission at cornellcollege.edu, and we can make sure to get you in contact with Joe, John, or Glenn. So thank you so much, you three, and we will move on to our faculty student panel.
Thanks, Drew.
Okay, so as we move on to this panel, we have everybody's wonderful faces showing up here little by little, and we will have them introduce themselves as well. Same thing here, if you have a question, Q&A at the bottom, feel free to start populating the question side of things, and we will get you answers as quickly as possible, either through a live ask or we will type the answer out to you. And we will get those going here in just a minute. I'm going to do my puppet mastery things and unmute all of you. So we will go ahead and go around the room, and we will have each of you introduce yourselves and a little bit about yourself. So faculty, where you teach and what you do within that, and then students, if you want to tell us about where you're from, what year you are, and then what major you've selected. So we'll go counterclockwise, and Chris, we'll start with you, then go to Craig, Tessa, and Zoe.
Hi, I'm Chris Pengetch. I work in the art department, but in particular, I'm an art historian, and I also teach a number of classes for gender studies and some for archaeology and classics and religion. Truly a liberal arts sort of personality.
Craig?
Hi, my name's Craig Teffer. I'm in the Department of Biology. I teach in the subcellular side of the curriculum. I teach genetics. I teach developmental biology. I teach cell and molecular biology. I also have the honor of taking a class to either Belize or the Bahamas in February each year. It's a senior research class.
And Tessa.
Hey, I'm Tessa. I am from Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm a sophomore, and I have a double major in anthropology and psychology.
Great. And Zoe, last but not least.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I am from St. Paul, Minnesota, and I am a senior biochemistry and molecular biology major.
Awesome. And now, Tessa, I do have to ask you, since you and I got to work with each other a couple of years ago to come to Cornell, I noticed that Simon was signed up for this, and is he in the room watching you, or is he just kind of like in the actual room you're in right now listening?
He's actually upstairs. He couldn't get his link to work, so he just gave up since he came yesterday.
Well, perfect. Well, if he can sit in the room, he can listen to any of the questions that you can answer for him, and you can fill them in. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, again, the question and answer button at the bottom. Feel free to start asking your questions. And so one question that came in actually during the leadership Q&A that I thought was probably better maybe for this group is from Sam Snow. He asked, how often are events held on campus, and do students usually attend these events? And this might be really good for our students to talk about the general student life events, and faculty too. There's a lot of events that students do for either research or through art. So we'll start with the students to answer, and then we'll move to the faculty. Zoe, you can go first.
Okay. So in terms of like student life events, we have PAC, which is our Performing Arts Committee, and they host events. I think it's about one a week. So that includes things like grocery bingo. They have hypnotists, comedians, speakers that come. So yeah, a lot of people actually do go to those, especially grocery bingo is always a really popular one because it's always good to get free food. And then they also do an event once a year called the Big Event. So that's where they bring either a speaker or a performer to campus. So this year it was B.O.B. Last year it was a Saturday Night Live comedian. So those are always really fun. And it's cool to experience it in like a small setting like Cornell because you get to be really up close and one-on-one with the performer. So that's pretty cool. Other events, I feel like there's something going on like every day between presentations, different speakers. We had a Nobel Peace Prize winner come to campus and talk about global warming, which was really cool. So yeah, there's a lot going on and they're usually really popular.
And Tessa?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, PAC does a lot, and then like every community or like group on campus has something going on at least once a block. So like every day I'm walking to lunch, there's little tables set out in front of the Hilltop Cafe, and there's always someone out there doing something. So there's always someone that you can like go to and like see what's going on, or like go on like ski trips, which are pretty easy, that happen second semester. So like what Zoe said, like, there's always something going on during the week and then on the weekends as well.
And so again, for the faculty, you have things going on too, whether it's symposium or the senior art show, and what do you see from that through not just students but maybe the Cornell community?
Well, certainly we see a number of speakers that we bring in for the department, but of course we also have regular exhibitions coming into our gallery here, and speakers that are part of that process. And what's most exciting for me is the end of the year when we have senior thesis exhibitions. I just sounded a little sad there, and it's only because I know this year we won't have our regular senior shows, but we're hoping to have students come back for homecoming and have their own exhibition that they should have had this May.
I'll just highlight one other thing that we do on campus, and that's CSRI. It stands for Cornell Summer Research Institute, in which we have a program, an 8-week program over the summer where students work with faculty members on research projects. And each week there's programming for the students, and students also present their results. Last year we had 20 faculty members and 40 students involved in this program, and it's one of our premier programs that we offer.
Excellent. So a question for the students, and I'm going to add to this just a little bit. What's your favorite part about Cornell, and what's the least favorite thing or maybe most difficult thing about your time at Cornell, and how do you deal with it? Tessa, you can go first on this one.
Okay. I think my favorite part about Cornell in general is the community, because that's kind of why I came to Cornell. Like, I walk on campus and I can talk to anybody, and it's so friendly. And how you can like have such easy access to your professors, whether it's face-to-face, email, dropping by their office, like before and after class and like during class. So I think just like that community aspect of being able to interact with everybody right away and super easily. I think the most difficult part, like my least favorite part, is I don't even know. I love Cornell. It's silly. We don't have a pool, and I love to swim, so it makes it kind of difficult, but I feel like that's it. Just like not having that ability to swim all the time, but otherwise it's pretty cool.
Zoe?
I think my favorite thing about Cornell is the faculty. So you get to have really good connections with your professors, especially your advisor. Craig's my advisor, and he knows I'm constantly in his office. But the professors really care about you, and they're really good at helping you find opportunities and helping you prepare and be competitive for those opportunities, as well as your professors really value as a student and as a person. So I've had professors have me over for dinner. I babysit for their kids. So you really get to know the professors on a very personal level, and it opens up a lot of really great, really cool opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily be able to find on your own or get without their connections. So I think that's my favorite part. Least favorite part, coming from a really big city. I'm from St. Paul, so it's kind of hard to be in a small town with just like stuff closes earlier than in a big city. But I think that with Cedar Rapids and Iowa City so close, being able to have opportunities to get off campus. So we have the Get Out of Town Club where they go, I think about once a block to an event either in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, or at like a park somewhere. And so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of get out of Mount Vernon if you ever feel trapped in a small town. But that being said, there is a lot to do in Mount Vernon, especially the more you get to know the community. So I think that pretty well compensates for it.
You know, there was a question last night about what would be some good advice for a first-year student. I think Zoe also just inadvertently gave that advice, which is when you say your favorite part, you say faculty. Craig, I imagine A is coming Zoe's way for whatever class she's in, whether it's your class or not. So this question was specifically asked to Tessa, but I'm actually going to throw it to both the students and faculty jump in on this as well. The question was about that, Tessa, you're majoring in psychology, and this particular person is also wanting to major in psychology and asking what a typical day in class looks like. But I think, you know, it's a good question for everybody in terms of what is a typical day for most students, and sometimes it's not a typical day. So Tessa, if you want to take it away, because it was asked directly to you, and then we can have other people jump in.
So for the block plan in general, it's typically 9 to 11, 1 to 3, and then you have lunch from 11 to 1. But sometimes the psych classes, we condense it down so that it's all in the morning, or mostly all in the morning. So we'll maybe meet a little earlier and just get all of our content down. And then, so that's lectures, we have discussions. Sometimes we're doing, in my research methods classes, we did research in the morning and the afternoon. So then we would do like statistics and like class discussions and practice with the statistics. So it's kind of a mix of everything. But usually in class, and then when you're out of class, it's textbook readings, a lot of research papers, so a lot of writing, but we have the writing studio, which helps with that. And then if you're doing individual research projects outside of the class time, not necessarily the 9 to 11, 1 to 3 time, you can go out and collect research, or you're prepping for your research project.
I want to add to some of that just a little bit, and that's to really pick up on the idea of community, because at Cornell College, unlike the other places I have taught, I think it's the block plan, people come together and there's a community classroom that takes place very quickly, and we get to know each other well, and part of that is due to the amount of time we spend together. And the closeness of our relationships, and it's also not at all unusual for us to be seeing students outside of class. I'm often in my office into the early evening, and the art building, for instance, we have classes where you can have a 24-hour pass and come in and out whenever you want to. That means the building is always alive. McQuethy is always alive with art students and art history students. It's a unique experience.
In the science, it's a little bit different. Our class time involves lab time. So we're usually in class from 9 to 10, maybe in the classroom, 10 to 11 in lab. Then we're back in class from 12:30 to 1:30, in lab 1:30 to 3. One of the big advantages that we have in one course at a time calendar is that students can do independent lab projects. They have 3.5 weeks to work on something independent. They don't have to take their experiments down. We don't share the classroom or the lab with anybody else. And for me, this is really important in my teaching, because I think lab gives context to everything they learn in the classroom. So this is a big advantage for us in the sciences.
To kind of hit on humanities and social sciences a little bit more. So a lot of those will have class, they'll like pick one. So I was just in a sociology class last block, and we had class from 9 to noon every day, so that we had the afternoon off to work on group projects or do reading. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty common to kind of condense it into the morning and afternoon, but do 3 hours instead of 2.
Mm-hmm. I mean, classes are all quite different. And the advantage that I see is that we as faculty members are allowed to teach in whatever manner is best for our own style of teaching and for the subject that we're sharing with the students. It's all different, and we can all adjust it, and we can pack everyone off in a van and drive to any sort of exhibition or site to actually have an experiential moment that is unlike any other semester school system can offer.
Chris, you must have been either reading my mind or reading the questions, because you just segued into the next question so perfectly. And I think this is more for the students, but I think it's really for the faculty as well. I hear you guys present all the time, and it's so it's so great to hear, because I hear the differences between what the block plan does and what the semester school does. So the question that someone posed was, what made you choose Cornell over other colleges and universities? There's going to be two probably different answers from the students and from the faculty. And so Zoe, I'm going to start with you and kind of go around, because, you know, I think, Chris, you probably just nailed it on the head as to why, especially you, are excited about the block plan over possibly a semester plan.
Yeah, so I am pre-med, so that heavily factored into my decision. Cornell has a really good pre-health program in general. They really care about their students and offer a lot of one-on-one advising, so that played heavily into my decision. As well as on my admissions event, I went to campus and we met with a professor and then the pre-health counselor at the time, and I was just blown away by how much Cornell already cared about me as a student. So a lot of the advice that they gave me wasn't specific to Cornell, it was to college in general, and they were really excited about helping me find the place that was going to be best for me, which was Cornell. I'm really glad I'm here. But it was cool to see that it wasn't just, we only want you to come to Cornell, it was, we really want you to find what's best for you. And that was an environment that I really thought it would be beneficial to be in, and it really has.
Tessa?
Yeah, so I went to Cornell several times before I was actually a student, and Drew was my admissions counselor, so he knows. He saw me a lot from my junior year to my senior year. So I think I was on one of the events that they had with a lot of students there, and so I got to meet with Drew, and I talked with Drew, and he was very helpful with guiding me in college in general, just like what Zoe was talking about, but then specifically like Cornell, like what I had options available for like majors, minors, different activities. So like they have a steel drum ensemble and I'm involved in that. And so I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like there was just so much there that I couldn't find anywhere else. And then at the event, I went and I talked to my psychology professor and then a biology professor, because I was having like credits transfer over, and I was thinking about behavioral neuroscience at the time, and she got so excited. She's like, oh, you could do this, and then you don't have to take this class, and you can do that. And she's like kind of already planning it out for me before I even committed to Cornell. So just the excitement that comes from professors that Zoe was kind of talking about too was a reason I came. And then when I was really debating between Cornell and like other colleges, I emailed professors, psychology professors, and asked what lab spaces they have available or what lab equipment they have. And so I like the options available for psychology because I could do so much as a student there. So yeah.
And for any Midwesterners listening too, Tessa and I had such a good relationship that her father, a diehard Nebraska Husker fan, and myself, an Iowa Hawkeye fan, we still bicker whenever we see each other, but he allowed Tessa to come to Cornell regardless.
Yes.
Craig, what about you?
I think for me, coming to Cornell, I think Chris hit it on the head, hit the nail right on the head when she talked about flexibility. Because I think in the sciences, you don't learn in four walls in a classroom. I think you need to be out in the field. And with our type of calendar, the organismal biologists, the ecologists, they go out in the field and they teach. I see the vans pull out every morning at about 9 and they come back by 3. Classes end at 3 and they teach out in the field. And for me, who is a molecular marine biologist, I can also teach out in the field. I take a class to the Caribbean. I'm a coral biologist, and I take the class out there for 2 or 3 weeks to work out there. It's enormous flexibility to do what you really like to do, and for students to learn not in a classroom, but actually out in the field. So I think the calendar really is what attracted me, and the possibilities that the calendar offered, I think.
I know that Craig has done some wonderful trips to Belize, but every other year I usually take a trip to Rome, Italy, and we live there for the entire block. And talk about getting to know each other well. There you have it. We're all in one place in that extraordinary city, and we get to look at city planning and examine the city from antiquity all the way up to Mussolini and fascism. And it becomes so much more alive when you can actually be there in person. But if you ask me why I came here to Cornell, it was because I saw the students grow so much under our care, and with the help of the curriculum that we set up, it was inspiring. I felt like I was making a difference teaching here, for sure.
So this is a great question. Being a former student athlete myself, I know that there's a lot of questions about that. Is it hard to manage classes while being in a sport? And so again, two different answers, but faculty are definitely have a big hand in this, and our student athletes. So students, if you're involved in a sport, I know Tessa, you are talking about a little bit about how to handle that, and then faculty, how do you work with coaches and student athletes? Go ahead, Tessa.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not personally in a sport. I'm in everything else except sports. But my roommate was in a sport, and so I could kind of see how she juggled that while we were on campus. And really, so class stops at 3 o'clock, and after 3 o'clock, you don't have to sit in class anymore. So that's when you have your sports and your games, your practices, whatever you have. Sometimes they have morning practices, but there is no time overlap usually with practices in class. You're in class and then you're in practice, so you don't have to worry about them conflicting or like running into each other. Class work-wise, you have enough time to do both the sport and school and succeed in both. From my perception of all of my friends that do sports and just other classmates that I've seen.
And faculty working with coaches or student athletes?
I guess I don't see it as a problem at all. I have lots of biology and biochemistry, molecular biology majors are athletes, and as was said before, practice is usually after 3 o'clock, so it's after class, and occasionally, maybe once and at the most twice, they might miss an afternoon class. And most of the time, the athletes let you know when they're going to miss the class, way in advance about that. I don't see that. I think it actually adds to the academics. I think it gives students a different perspective. The other thing that helps the athletes too, athletes can choose when to take classes. Some of the classes that we offer in the biology department and chemistry department are quite challenging, but they're offered more than once. And so students can select to take that class off season, or some students do better when they take it on season because they're so sort of regimented in their activities. So they have that kind of flexibility as well. I think it's easy to be a student athlete here.
And I can at least agree with Craig that as an advisee, I'm highly concerned about what courses a student is taking during any given season. For instance, I'm sorry, Craig, I'm probably not going to tell my advisee who's a football player to take a lab class in the fall. Probably not, but maybe you've informed me that it might be better for them depending upon their own learning style.
Well, and the other thing too that I think is great for student athletes here that don't get this opportunity as much in semester programs is just the fact that they can study off campus and study abroad so much better than semester courses. Because our study abroad is based on the block, you're not missing that bulk of season or any season at all. And from my experience working with coaches, they are so encouraging for students to be able to do this experience. I think what's so cool about our students here is that they are encouraged and have the support from everybody across campus to make sure they have that full experience. A student athlete is going to be a student and an athlete. It's not going to be only athletics. So if you have this trip abroad, you have that internship that's going to be in season. The coaches might be unhappy if you're their starting setter on the volleyball team, but if this is a once in a lifetime situation, they're going to tell you to do it, and they know that's going to be better for you. So I think that's a really cool thing. So students, here's a great question. How would you describe the student body in 3 words? And Zoe, you've been quiet for a while, so you'll be first.
Okay, this kind of sounds like it contradicts, but I think I would say connected, individual, and passionate. So students are really, I think that the way campus is set up with being done at 3, you have the opportunity to be involved in a lot of things. And I think that the directions that people take that really leads to being involved in what you're passionate about and excited about. But it's not just like you are an athlete. Like you're an athlete and you're involved in a lot of different things like organizations and clubs outside of athletics, and you're involved in your major. So you really are like an individual person that's doing what you're passionate about. But everyone's really supportive of each other. And if you have events, like everyone's coming to them and excited to learn about what you're doing. So you kind of have that community that's furthered by the individual passions of all the students, I guess.
Tessa?
Friendly, caring, and curious, I think. Friendly is self-explanatory, but I think caring in the way that they care about each other, but then I think the community at Cornell cares about our education and cares about like what we're gonna do next. So everyone that comes to Cornell is there for a reason, and they're not there to just like hang out. Like they care about everything they do, and like Zoe said, passionate. So like yes, passionate. Like so I think like that goes hand in hand, that everyone just cares so much about everything they do that they just pour their heart into everything they do. And then curious, because I think when I think of Cornell, I think of people just asking questions and going to professors and, you know, like taking what they learn a step further and like learning as much as they possibly can, because we have the block plan and the way that it's set up, we're able to do that.
And you know, we've chatted a little bit about this throughout some of the different questions, but you know, for our professors and for our students, you know, how often do you meet with your professors and counselors for extra help? And how available are they? So we'll go back to the faculty side, and Chris, if you want to start.
Okay. Generally speaking, in the art department, most of us are here most of the time and into the evening. And when we were talking about sports, what also crossed my mind was that sometimes I meet with students in the evening just because they do have a sport that takes up all of the afternoon. We spend, I think, quite a bit of time together, but it varies from one student to the next. There is that individual component in the larger community because some students want more involvement than others, but I tend to be a little doting, but that's my problem, and I know how to say, all right, if you tell me it's too much, if I'm checking on you too frequently.
Greg?
I think for the most part, a lot of students will talk to me during lab, because labs a lot of hurry up and wait. I sort of call it that for molecular biology. But on top of that, I think students come and go as they please. Some students are in my office a lot. Zoe's a good example of that, who for questions either about the course or about other things that she's interested in. I'm usually here into the early evening, the evening before exams. I'm here usually pretty late. So I think students can have as much access as they would like. Students, I don't have any organized office hours. That students know that I'm around. Doors open, they can find me in the building. So I don't think there's ever an issue for that. So students can get as much or as little help as they'd like. I'm a little, not maybe as doting maybe as Chris is, but I tend to seek.
But you're caring, you are.
I do tend to seek students out. If they're not going to come to me and they're struggling in the class, I'll call them into my office and have a conversation and try to help them that way.
Tessa, Zoe?
I think one of the things is professors are really good about coming in when your class wants them to come in. So Craig is a good example of this because I have him a lot. But he'll come in on like Sunday night before an exam if we want him to, or one of our chemistry professors will come in and stay until the last student leaves on the weekend if we have exam on Monday. So they're really available when your class wants. And they're also really good about responding to email. All professors email me back at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, why are you awake? Like, go to bed. But they're really good about responding and being there for you if you want to. Yeah, there's some of them like Craig who, if he wants to talk to you, you're going to talk to him. But there's others that is kind of like more on your own time. But I think as a student body, at least everyone I know is like very connected with their professors and their advisors.
It's more than just in class as well, because Zoe uses me in a lot of different ways. I've helped her write a number of personal statements and things that she's gotten, summer internships and other things that she's gotten as well. And also I think when students graduate, they want to meet with me and talk about their careers and also help in some of their writing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just met last weekend with a student who graduated in 2001, and he's now thinking about a career change. So we have long-term relationships with our students.
Yeah, I just had a student from 2002 want a curriculum and wanted some advice. She has children that are starting college, and she wants to sort of rekindle her career.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And so we are at times, but I want to get to two more questions here that we have. The first question is just about Greek life on campus. So for those who don't know, we do have Greek life on campus. They're local sororities and fraternities. So we don't have fraternity and sorority housing. But Tessa and Zoe, I'm not sure if either of you are involved in any of our Greek life that can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I joined a sorority this year, and so you wait to like pledge or to like get into a sorority or anything with that until fifth block. So first years aren't involved in Greek life until the fifth block of their first year, which is kind of nice because it gives you that time to get acclimated to campus and then really find out like what kind of group you want to be involved in and if you want to be involved in a group. So since I'm a sophomore, I waited 1.5 years to do it, which was kind of nice. So there's a lot of people involved in Greek life, but then there's also a lot of people not involved in Greek life, which is really nice too, because you can find people that are in it and not in it in your group. So you can just branch out a little bit more. And then since we don't have Greek housing, it's kind of nice too that you can live like with people on your floor that aren't in your sorority or fraternity. So you can meet even more people that way.
Yeah, I also am in a sorority. I joined my first year on campus. But to kind of speak to campus culture as a whole, so about 25% of our student body is involved. And one of the things that I was looking for when I went to college was I didn't want the whole like Greek life culture that you see at some bigger schools where like if you're not involved in Greek life, you're not going to be friends with anyone in Greek life. And I think what's cool about our campus is that Greek life is just one on a long list of things that everyone does. And it's not like an exclusive thing. So if you're not in it or if you are in it, you're still friends with people that are and aren't in it too. So yeah, it's more of an activity than a lifestyle, I would say.
And then the final question that I think is just really good, especially for many students, students who are starting at Cornell, whether a first-year student or a transfer student, what's the best advice you can give to them coming into the block plan? And we'll start with Chris, and then Craig, then Tessa, and then Zoe.
I would say the best advice for someone starting with the block plan is to be ready to be engaged. It can be pretty intense, but that can be fun sometimes. So
I think the advice I would give is not to be afraid to ask for help. I think
it's a good one.
That's really important. I think if college work and college expectations are different than high school, and I think there's a sort of a transition period, a growing period to learn that. And I think everybody here, including students, faculty, and staff, are willing to help. Seek out help and get what you need from people, whether it be the writing studio or some other place, getting tutors or something like that. And that they'll help you succeed.
Yeah, I would say to keep an open mind about the classes you take and the activities you want to be involved in. Because if there's something that you think sounds interesting, but you're like, oh, I don't know if that's my thing, try it. Because there's so many opportunities at Cornell and there's so many interesting classes at Cornell that are inside and outside of your majors. So your first year and then your first year at Cornell or your first year in college are a really good time to do that. And since the block plan allows you to go from class to class, it really makes it easy to do that.
I think I've kind of reiterated this throughout, but I think talking to your professors and the faculty and the staff at Cornell, like all the activities that I've been in and the opportunities I've had and jobs that I've had have come about through Cornell faculty and staff, encouraging me to do things. Cornell has Cornell-sponsored opportunities, faculty has connections, so you get to do a lot of really cool stuff just by talking to your professors and the rest of the staff at Cornell.
That's perfect advice, because I can also say that you wouldn't be teaching at Cornell College if you didn't enjoy working with students. That's why we're here.
Great final words. Well, Chris, Craig, Tessa, Zoe, thank you so much for being brave and on our Q&A panel. And if you have any questions for them that didn't get answered, feel free to email us at the admission office. Again, it's admission@cornellcollege.edu, no S on the end of admission. And we can get you in contact with any of these fine panelists to answer those questions. A few other things happening here now that we are finished up with this. You'll be receiving an email here soon. And in that email, we'll have 3 recorded sessions that we pre-recorded, one including our Berry Career Institute that'll talk about internships and getting jobs, life outside of Cornell once you graduate, as well as inside, preparing you for the working world. We'll have a session on residential living. So Stephen Strope, our Director of Residence Life, has a session that we pre-recorded and asked a few questions on that. And we have one more about the one course at a time calendar and some more details about that, including some of the study abroad opportunities. So those will be sent out here once we wrap up here. You can check your emails for that. We'll also have some tour video options in there and our social media pages. While we step away from on-campus stuff, are great opportunities to check things out. Our YouTube page has a lot of great videos that you can check out, things about our esports team or living on campus or just a tour. At this time as well, all the admission counselors are available. And so if you have any questions, you can reach out to your admission counselor and ask them that. Final thing is just, if Cornell College at the end of the day is the right place for you, you can make your deposit. And for students who have attended a visit on campus prior or are attending these virtual visits, we are guaranteeing a $410 gift store or bookstore gift card for that deposit as well, to hopefully help out with some of those first year books, but you can use it for a sweatshirt as well. So there's opportunities, and we do have current students available as well. So lots of different people available. This does not end once we end the meeting or the webinar here. We will have lots of people available for communication and contact. And so with that, I'm going to share a screen here that will have our student or our counselors available and their contact. But again, you can always email us a regular admission email, and we can get those provided out as well. So again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you for attending this event, and we hopefully will talk with you soon.